Hey everybody, welcome to Shifty's Club. Today, I got a road deck video for you. Check it out.
Hey guys, just to let you guys know, none of these are going to be scripted out because I feel that if you guys listen to me talk through a video scripted out on some random rogue deck, you might think that I really didn't know what I was talking about and that I planned it in advance. So, I'm going to go ahead and do this without scripting it out. It might be a while, but I'm sure you guys will enjoy how the videos will be made this way. The first rogue deck in a while is going to be composed of a deck that I thought of just not even that far after I found out what was going to be released during Flashfire. And the deck that I'm going to be talking about, I call it SpeedZard. And basically what this deck is the Charizard EX with Stoke. And it allows you to flip a coin, and if heads, you search your deck for 3 basic energy cards and attach them to Charizard EX and shuffle your deck afterward. And I believe that I could make this into a viable functioning deck. And of course, the very first partner that stood out to me was Victini, because its ability allowed me to reflip the coin in case I get tails. So there's a 75% shot of hitting turn 1 if I go second, and there's another 75% chance of doing it turn 2 in case the 25% chance lands a failure. Alongside of Charizard as well are Darkrai EX and Virizion EX. And the reason I chose these two was because Charizard Stoke cost 1 colorless energy, and its attack for 120 only required 1 fire out of 4 energy. And because of this, I thought, well, Stoke I can use any type of energy, and I only need 1 fire for its other attack. And I thought I could run a split between Fire, Grass, and Dark, and be able to run Darkrai EX and Virizion EX. And the reason I chose these is because when Charizard faces more of a deck that requires long-term hitting or even non-aggressive decks that implement stats and stuff like that, it's better to have Darkrai, free retreat, max potion, and pull off something really big. However, I opted out of max potion. I just wanted to be able to get Charizard EX in and out of the active slot in case it was injured. Really didn't care too much about max potion. I just thought I'll save the injured Charizard until it's time to actually use a Charizard that's injured, and I can take full use of it and still be able to be okay with that knockout. And even sometimes, if an opponent does have a knockout up hand, you could you could take a knockout with 1 Charizard, or take a hit with 1 Charizard after KOing with a new one, and still be able to knock out the second one, and you wouldn't get knocked out with the first one. So if you guys can follow that train of thought, you can see how I thought that Charizard EX would be much more efficiently ran in this fashion. Virizion is because Charizard EX is 180 HP, and there are plenty of decks out there who try to implement strategies through Laser Bank. And if you know me, I'm not a big fan of playing against Laser Bank. And because I'm a rogue player, I'm going to get around it 9 times out of 10, or I'm going to opt the strategy myself. And Virizion EX does work pretty well. And the good thing is, I run enough energy to where if I have to use their attacks, I can use their attacks. Because very rarely, but on occasion, which is usually about a 1 in 30 shot with Darkrai and maybe 1 in 40 with Virizion, will I ever have to use their attacks? Ditto is the last Pokemon that I add, and I add 4 of them for a reason. I want to start with Charizard EX. And if you do the math, running 4 Charizard EX against 2 Darkrai EX, 1 Virizion EX, and 2 Victini, there's a more than 50% shot that I'm going to start with a Pokemon other than Charizard EX. So Ditto pulls it in my favor, stating that in 13 possibilities, I'm going to have 8 to start with Charizard EX in retrospect, because Ditto does allow me to play Charizard EX on top of it even on turn 1. So Ditto is a very handy little card and should be used in every deck, to where your active Pokemon literally has to be able to attack turn 1. And if you run a different set of cards after that, you really want to be able to find it. So that's pretty much the Pokemon line. Now let's go to the trainer line. The A-Spec card in this deck is Dowsing Machine. Like 90% of my decks, Dowsing Machine is a no-brainer. On occasion, you'll need things like Computer Search, but remember, an A-Spec card is only allowed 1 of in a deck, and the chances you're going to get Computer Search on turn 1 or turn 2 are slim to none. And the reason I say this is because even with a 1 in 60 shot of getting it in your starting hand, actually, you would reduce it to 1 in 60 over 7, and then take out the chance that you may price the card, and it wouldn't do you too much good anyway. So there's always times when you'll price the card, and then it gets really rough. Overall, even going through all the statistics, I never run Computer Search when it comes to the difference between Computer Search and Dowsing Machine. Dowsing Machine just looks like so much more of a game-changing card than Computer Search. I also run 3 Muscle Band with the 4 Charizard EX in the statement to say that I run 4 Charizard EX to gain the consistency of starting with it. But I run 3 Muscle Band because I'm only really going to need 3 on 3 different Charizard, because that'd be 6 prizes. And if you know me, I like to conserve space for things that I really need in a deck. 3 red card, because let's just face it, Charizard EX is going to get up fast and furiously. And running cards like in a deck, you would really like to have cards to try to take your opponent down a notch. And red card does seem to help some. Usually after playing an in, you could then red card your opponent during a beginning or a pre-mid game and be able to slow their setup just enough. 3 Super Rod is in here because I feel that each of my Pokemon deserve a way to get back, because overrunning Sacred Ash and Energy Retrieval, I would much rather get a mixture, because let's face it, I run 13 Pokemon and 12 energy. So I really don't need one or the other. I need to be able to have both decisions split. If you guys remember Roseanne's research back in Secret Wonder set, which is the Diamond Pearl era, it allowed you to search your deck for up to 2 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy cards. Well, the same thing with Super Rod, except getting them out of your discard pile and shuffling them in your deck. So I'd much rather implement this strategy than one featuring 2 different cards. 1 Surprise Megaphone, because let's face it, Garbodor does sometimes hurt you, but Garbodor is nothing to really worry about, because once Victini helps Charizard EX set up, there's really no reason for you to need or to worry about the Garbodor matchup. for Ultra Ball because, let's face it, I want to be able to get out any Pokemon I have in my deck very fast. And because I have 3 Pokemon that can't be searched out by Level Ball or by Heavy Ball, I have to be able to rely on things like Ultra Ball. And I really don't want to run splits between different cards because then the deck becomes inconsistent, like I went over with Super Rod. And I also run 4 Hypnotoxic Laser, 2 Verbank City Gym, and that's why I waited until I got through with all my other trainers to get to this one. Because I wanted to let you know that I do believe in Laser Bank in this deck because Charizard EX's attack only does 120 damage. Add in the Muscle Band, that's 140, and without Laser Bank, that wouldn't be a knockout. Luckily, with the extra 30 damage, 170 damage is enough to take out most of your very threatening Pokemon in this particular format. One Colress seems like a very weird tech, but I find it very helpful. If you pay attention, my Pokemon line runs 13 Pokemon, no evolutions, so I should be able to emphasize Colress. I thought about running more, but the thought of actually putting more Colress in the deck would just jeopardize me having to pull it early game and rely on it. And I'd rather have that one late game Colress and be able to pull everything I need for the win. 2 Lysander seems appropriate, given that Virizion and Darkrai can't protect Charizard single-handedly, and they can't slow down the abilities that absolutely hurt Charizard EX. That's where Lysander comes in. Just pull them up and knock them out. And that's the way I think about it. Things like Deoxys EX absolutely hurt Charizard EX. Things such as, and say for instance, they absolutely just did not have everything they need, and they had like 1 damage counter on it. Darkrai EX. See, they had their own Darkrai EX. Then you would be able to pull stuff like that. And I know it's not the best thing in the world to Lysander up, but Keldeo EX. Because let's face it, Black Kyurem is their starting attacker. They might think of pulling out Keldeo as an attacker, but usually they'll want to use it as the ability Pokemon. Then you've got N, which is a great supporter, allows you to shuffle your hand and draw your cards until you have the same number as prize cards, which is probably the most consistent supporter we have in the game right now. 3 Pokemon Fan Club seems pretty easy to call because, let's face it, we have to get Charizard EX and Victini out on turn 1, and it's very hard to do without some sort of acceleration or some sort of achievement in the deck. Ultra Ball isn't going to do it alone, and neither will a Refresh Draw support. If we can't find one or the other, it makes it very hard, and thus finding either Charizard EX or Victini or Pokemon Fan Club gives us a complete overload chance of a 9/60 chance of pulling the 1 card we need on turn 1. But you never know. We also learn 4 Professor Sycamore because, let's face it, Sycamore or Juniper is the best supporter in the game right now. Because you discard your hand, as large or small as it may be, usually it's going to be real small, and we draw 7 cards. And, well, that seems like a lot of supporters, even though I particularly think 14 is not a bad number for this deck because it is using a supporter every turn, and it's got so many options as far as support draw goes. However, I really think that this particular spread works in its favor because there's not as many trainer item cards as it's going to be able to abuse because, let's face it, Charizard EX is just a plain deck. The energy count goes 6 fire, 3 dark, 3 grass, and spreads it out so each Pokemon can attack well. Well, guys, that's it for the deck. And I'll go ahead and get back to the main screen.
So guys, what did you think about the deck? Post your comments in the comment section down below, and if they're approved, I'll put them on the site. If you have questions, comments, or concerns in that matter, you can always feel free to email me through YouTube. And as always, if you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time at SpeedZard.